So chapter 11 is on data displays, and we can see now with everything happening how critical data collection and analysis is. There's an article, it's actually a podcast I'm going to share with you later on in this chapter, where they did some analysis of the SATs and things that people use in their real workforce, their real jobs, and they found that data collection, even for those people that didn't think they would use math, this is so critical, and they are surprised at how frequently it's coming up, but then they also understand with it. Computers, we're collecting data constantly. Even your phones, you can look at how long you were on social media today, find averages and stuff like that. So there's data everywhere. So we're just going to touch on some things, but this is a good catalyst, and I definitely encourage you to consider taking stats when you get into high school. It's definitely going to help you out. Prob and stats, super important topics in math, okay? All right, so first lesson, measures of center and variation. These three topics are things no doubt you've seen before. The mean, the median, and the mode. So we're going to go through each of them a little bit, and then we'll summarize them. So the mean is of a numerical data set. So let's say we're talking about the heights of everybody in class, how tall everyone is. It's the sum of the data divided by the number of data values. So that sounds very official, but basically you're just finding the average, right? So if I wanted to find the mean of everyone in class, I would add up all the numbers. So let's say the first person's height plus the second person's height plus the third person's height. Let's say there were only 3 people in class. Then I would divide by how many people there are, okay? If this was like 30, then I would obviously add up all 30 people and divide by 30. You've done this before. I know you found mean. Now this might be the thing that's new though. This is the symbol for mean, and this is how you say it. So the symbol, rather than writing out the word mean, actually has a symbol because it's used so frequently. It's X bar, and that's why you read it. X bar. X with a bar above it. Makes sense. Okay? So that's the mean. Next is the median. I think of like the middle of the road, or the prime meridian. The median on the road is so like the middle of the road, like between both lanes sometimes. It's like that barrier you can't cross. The prime meridian we know is like dealing with the globe and lines of longitude. So median is the number in a numerical data set. Again, that's the absolute middle number, okay? They have to be written in numerical order, and if there's an even number of values, then you find the average of those two middle numbers, okay? So this is right in the middle. That's the critical thing with median. And the last one is mode. And the mode, I'm sure when you learned it, they said it's the one that occurs most, mode most. So again, in a data set of value or values, it's the one that shows the most frequently. Now there can be one mode, there can be no mode, or there can be more than one mode. So if a certain number repeats, let's say we have like 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. This shows up twice, this shows up twice. So we have 2 modes. If I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then there's no modes. Nothing's showing up more than anything else. And obviously if I have just something like this shows up more than once, so the mode would be 2. So that covers all 3 cases. Now each of these, notice that in one way they're measuring the center of sorts. I know mode can be a little bit challenging to think of that as the center, but these are all considered measures of center, okay? That's why you learn them together. Whatever grade it was you learned all 3 of these, you learned them together because these are measures of center. Okay, so let's just try a couple. I know you've seen these before. We're just going to go over them real quickly. So if we have this random data set, first thing I'm going to do is put it in order. Okay, so as I do that, I strongly recommend you check it off just so that you don't accidentally miss something or count it twice. So there's all my 2s. Then I have a 3. Then I have 2 4s. 4, 4. And then I have a 5. And lastly, I have a 16. Oh, I forgot 7. Good thing I didn't skip that. 7. And then I have 16. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count how many there were, make sure I didn't skip any. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have all my values. Excellent. All right, now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to do the 3 measures of center that they were asking me for. All right, so the first one's the mean. I'm going to write it as X bar. So I'm going to add all of these up. So I'm going to add 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 7 plus 5 plus 7 plus 16, all divided by 9, because I know there's 9 of them. And if I do that, I should get the answer of 5. Okay. Next, I'm going to do the median. and the median is the one right in the middle. So 9, so if I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, this brings me to my 5th spot. Over here I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. This brings me to my 5th spot. Okay. All right, so my middle, my median, I have 4 on the left, 4 on the right. My median then is just 4. And the last one, my mode here, is the one that shows up the most. And the one obviously showing up the most, there is an actual mode, it's going to be 2. Okay. All right, now they don't ask me to make a dot plot, but I just want to go over what that is with you, just to kind of review it in case you see it at some point. I'm going to put my numbers on like a little table. So this is called a dot plot, or you could consider this a frequency table. Frequency in terms of how often something occurs. All right, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I don't know if I'll fit this, 13, 14, 15, and we're right at the end, 16. Alrighty, so what I would do here then is I'm going to put a dot above each number each time it occurs. So 2, 1, 2, 3. Then I have 3, it only shows up once. I have 2 4s, 1, 2. I have a 5, I have a 7, and I have a 16. So by looking at this visually, which the advantage to doing it this way versus listing them out like we have here, when I go ahead and make them in a visual, I can see, wow, most of my data is down here. Yes, 16 is further up, which I probably would have noticed anyway, but I can see kind of visually how far, and I can see the frequency with how this data is distributed right around here. Okay, all right, so that's my data or dot plot, or I can think of it as a frequency chart, frequency tables, or not a table, but a frequency chart. So I have all this information here. Alrighty, so now here's why I wrote that out, because in part B it says determine which measure of center best represents the data. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Alright, so which measure of center best represents the data? When I look at this visually, I can see that 2, which was our mode, is right here. Doesn't really represent the center of the data, right? It's very far at the extreme. All right, my next measure of center is 4, which is right here. And then the last thing I have is 5, which is right here. Okay, so I would look at this data and see that most of it is clumped towards the front of the data set. And within that, 4 is the one that seems to be the best measure of the center of that data, right? I wouldn't say 5 because I have more points to the right of, I only have 2 points to the right of that. And if I look at the collection of the data. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the median. Whoops. Okay. So that's why I went ahead, third time, that's why I went ahead and, there we go. And I'm just going to refer here. I drew it so that when it says to explain, my explanation would be something along the lines of the median is the best representation of the center of the data, and I represented that with a visual example, something along those lines, okay? And there's a variety of explanations you could provide. I could say that the mode is not representative of the center, it's only the far extreme. The mean doesn't take into account all the data points. So there's a wide variety of ways you can express that. All right, we're going to try one more of these right now. Just again, this lesson is just review for this portion of it. We'll do the next video, the next session that you'll look at will involve some new things. But in number 2, it says that the table shows the masses of 8 gorillas. First, I want us to identify the outlier. Okay, so an outlier is something that's pretty far away from the data. Now, there's actually a specific formula for determining whether or not something is an outlier, but for our sake of purposes right here, as long as there's something that's kind of extremely far away, like in this case, 16 was pretty far away. We're not going to worry about the formula necessary. We're just going to consider that to be the concept of what an outlier is, okay? That would be like if we all took a test. So the concept of an outlier and how it can affect things is if we all took a test and everyone did really great on it, but one person didn't realize there was a second side, and so they got a really low score. Only one person. So that one person, if I would find the average and I would write the average grade on the board, that one person for getting the whole back side is going to pull that average way down. In reality, that's not a good representation of the data. So let's talk about the gorillas. Identify the outlier, and then how does it affect the mean, median, and mode? So what I'm going to do first is put the numbers in order. Let's do this. We're just going to find the mean, median, and mode first as it is. My lowest number is 44 kilograms. Okay, I'm going to check that off. Then looking across the board, I have a 157. I have a 158. I have a 159. I have a 160. Followed by another 160, a 161, and a 162. Okay, count again: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, in real life, you're not going to by hand find the mean, median, and mode. Computer programs would do this for you, but like everything we've done, we want to understand the background. All right, so I've gone ahead and calculated the mean, median, and mode. So this is as it stands. My mean is 145.125. That's 1/8. So 145.125 kilograms for the mean, X bar. My median, that was my average essentially. The median, that number that falls right in the middle. Now if I look at this, this is a good example. This is the middle. There's no number here. So the actual median that I'm going to write is 159.5. It's basically the average of these two numbers. Okay. And then the mode, the one that shows up the most, is 160. Okay, so that's with the data in there. Now, identify the outlier. In this case, my outlier, if I look at my numbers, I could make a dot plot again, and I would see my first number is 44, and then I would see there's this massive gap between 44 and the next number. It's not going to be till up here at like 157, 158. Da, 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 da. So my dot plot's going to look something like this. Whoops. Whoa. Okay, so somehow it switched over. So anyway, all the data is here. So I can see that 44 is my outlier if I didn't happen to notice that prior. Okay, it's kilograms. And then I'm going to go ahead and answer, how does this affect the mean, median, and mode? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the outlier out of there and re-find it. So now let's pretend 44 was not part of the data set. I'm going to write without 44. Then I'm going to recalculate the mean. So again, I'm going to add up all these numbers and divide by, this time there's only 7 values. Divide by 7 and I get 159.6. If I find my median, I'm going to find that to be 160, actually, right in the middle. And my mode is the same thing as it was before. That didn't change, 160. So how did it affect the mean, median, and mode? I would say, well, my mean used to be 145.12. Now it went up a lot, right? My median only went up a little bit, and my mode stayed the same. Okay, so I don't really have room to write that. I'm not going to write that out, but that's what I would describe, I would express. I would say the mean, the average, now that this isn't in there, now we're not even counting any of that space. I'm just finding the average of these numbers. That's why it jumps so much. So with the outlier in there, it pulled down my average. The median only went down a little bit from what it would have been without the outlier. It's only 159.5. It's only a little bit smaller. Or you could say with the outlier gone, it's only up a little bit, however you think of it, and the mode stayed the same. And the last piece of this lesson, what is one possible explanation? Well, maybe it's a little baby, right? So I encourage you to Google just quickly some baby gorillas. They are absolutely adorable. And take a look at the homework, okay? Thanks again, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.